Okay, so I let everybody in. It's recording.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the February 21st council meeting. It is now 6:08 and we have a quorum present, so we'll call the meeting to order. Second item on the agenda is a closed council meeting. And the proposed topics for discussion in the absence of the public are A, legal, and B, personnel. And that'll be subject to section 90.1, 90.1A, 90.1C, and 90.1N. And the closed portion will finish off just before 7 o'clock and we'll come back into open again. So with that, do I have a motion to move into close? Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Motion carried. Okay, gallery, thank you very much, and we'll see you back at 7 o'clock. The meeting, I'll just report out from closed meeting. We have one item, and that was the closed regular council meeting, December 8th, 2022. The minutes for December 8th were not approved. So that was the only item to report out from the closed meeting. And with that, we'll move to a motion to adopt the agenda. Do we have a motion? Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion or any additions?
I had a couple of things. If you just, anyone else got anything? If you just give me a minute.
There are actually 3 letters from close that were brought forward on table.
That's right.
Letter from sorry. Letter regarding the board membership with the what do you mean that? It's the ISC board member council. Second letter from Riley Dar, the events committee, and a third letter from an Ann Bjornson. They were inadvertently put in closed when they should actually be in open.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Good taken. Okay, any additions to the agenda?
I had a couple. Some of them, I guess, for Ron. I don't know if you're planning to bring them up. If not, update on utility bills.
So we're talking about it today. Just
Hold on, Ron.
I'm just adding
We'll
them
add them to the agenda. We'll
Okay, you get it. We just okay. Under your reports, add them to the agenda. Okay.
I'm sorry, what was that on? What?
Utility bills.
Oh, utility bills. Okay, thank you.
And then the budget plan schedule, Ron, you worked through that. Do you have an update on that for tonight? Okay. I did that in closed. With these 2 new grants, one is a climate resilience grant, and then there's this $1 billion infrastructure grant the province announced. Can we add those to a discussion at the end of the meeting and see if we can come up with a way forward? And my last request is an update on postings for the full-time CFO position.
Just the $1 billion grant is under item number 15.
Is it?
New business, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just add the climate resilient grant to that same discussion.
Climate resilient.
I might have the name right. The one that the Norm Bomber said.
Right.
Might not have the right name. Look it up.
Okay, sorry, what was the other item? There was one other one.
And then I was just wondering if you're going to post for the full-time position for a full-time CFO.
and CAO at some point.
Well, I guess that's the discussion we can bring up. Yeah. What's our plan?
Okay. Good. motion to adopt the agenda.
1 second, I have something. Under reports, I understand you're going to be having a verbal report for us tonight. I would like in the future to see written reports included in the agenda so that we have time to study them and residents do as well. And that goes as to the mayor's reports also. We've had a tendency to head into speeches instead of reports at times, and I think it'd be better if that were done in a written form. And as to the item 10D3.
Sorry, are you adding that to the agenda? I'm just trying to get this clear. This is an amendment.
If I could finish, I'm just pointing out that in the future, I'd like to see written reports included in the agenda package as opposed to verbal reports. And under item 10D3.
So is that an amendment?
If I could finish again, under item 10D3. If we have something coming from the purported finance committee, I would wish not to receive that. Because I, again, will say that the finance committee has never gotten any direction from council. And as such is operating out in left field on its own and needs to come to council for direction. So I'm not interested in receiving anything from the finance committee until it has received that direction from council.
Okay, I'll just comment on that. That's a standing committee, so that doesn't take direction from council. So just once again, standing committee, and you can read up on that if you'd like, but that's.
Okay, sorry.
If I could just correct you on that, sorry.
Is there anything else? We're making amendments to the agenda.
You made a claim that needs to be clarified again, which is under the procedures bylaw,
The
number 52.
You and I are.
Under number 52 of the procedures bylaw, committees, including standing,
Marcus, let's just pull this to order.
take their direction from council.
Okay, committees do take the direction from council, correct, Marcus is correct, let's just move on.
Okay.
That's all we want.
Other amendments? No. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda with the amendments?
I'll put it forward.
Second,
Yes.
all in favor?
Yes,
Yes.
Carried. Okay, we'll move to public participation. We'll open it up to the floor. The gallery first, and then we'll go to the Zoom meeting participants. So, yes.
Thank you.
There's,
Do you wish me to stand here?
Up at the podium, I think is the routine. Thank you. And you can just write your name down there.
I
And-
already did.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, just to follow up from my remarks last time and in speaking with Councillor Broughton regarding the CN Railway. We were thinking, and it was suggested that it was a good idea for the rest of the neighborhood to forward something to CN as they simply don't reply. And it would seem more structured and offer more strength if we could get the rest of the neighborhood that were so nearly blasted out of their seats. And one further thing, the Wymans were home that night. I thought because Matt didn't reply to my voicemail, but he hadn't even looked. And Susan's remarks were, she thought we were being derailed. And she said, if this is the way I die, so be it. And that's a quote from Susan Wyman. So Susan Nicholson. So anyway, Michael, you were going to see if you could find a better contact for me because the number I have gets me nowhere. And I don't want to have the other people sending emails off when they're not going to be responded to. So if you could.
right, okay, I've sourced the number of numbers, I thought it forward, okay. Well,
I have
see
to
if it's,
look at the diversity cross, and that doesn't work. The other CN number's the one I talked to.
Right.
And finally got hold of someone who promised to get back.
right,
Chris at BC Rail said, if you got hold of him, he will get back to you, but he never did.
right,
And so will still go forward. It has
Okay.
been quiet. That's the good news. They haven't been doing any more hard joints is what they call it. They haven't done those since. So we've been sleeping peacefully on Isle.
Right.
Then my second point is I addressed this once before last year. In the 40 years we've lived here, we so appreciate the salt trucks that get around and get out at all times. But there's some different method they're using. And so it looks as though they're dumping half a pail of heavy rocks here and then nothing for perhaps 20 meters and then another great blast of it. And it's hard to walk through. It's not consistent. And as algae occurs like this, I don't know how it's done in the rest of Lions Bay, but I would consider thinking that it was probably the same. But those of us who walk dogs and have to get across have to go where there isn't any of this thick salt. And of course, the rain comes, it goes away, but we noticed that the road was salted on our way home today, and it's in great patches. One up by the Mackeys, a giant one by us, one across the bridge. And if the old way was so good because it worked, but I don't know what they're doing now that leaves it in these. It looks like someone has taken a bucket and just thrown it. And I know that's not what they're doing. So if someone else could look at it and give their ideas.
If I might, that's the auger on the back of the salter, and there's probably a malfunction if it's dumping mounds of salt. So I'll have a staff look at it first thing in the morning.
It's been doing that each time this year. So this
Okay.
Okay.
And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
For the record, it's Arlene Hallstrom is at the podium, so. I know this last time.
Anyone?
They didn't get your name, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the gallery?
Yes.
Yes.
And then I'll follow up.
This is Wayne Hallstrom at 140 Albion Place. And I got some comments I'd like to make on what I think is the performance of the community that is alarming. And I'm going to read it to you. I know you will have it in your mail, but it's to the mayor and council, Village of Lions Bay. I wish to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Mayor Barry for his leadership and dedication to transparency in this difficult time. His handling of the issues, the calm conduction of meeting, and obvious dedication of his role as our master of the ship is most appreciated. I am dismayed, disappointed, and disgusted at the post-election actions and rhetoric of some of my fellow Lions Bay residents. We have moved beyond the theater of the absurd into uncharted waters where disrespect and outright defamation seem to be the new norm. And points to seek out the help of all things of the Vancouver media to air grievances based on personal angst at an election not going to satisfy one's personal expectations, I believe is reprehensible. What relevance does our mayor's history as a well-respected NHL hockey player who happens to have spent time in his professional career with a franchise that has and continues to fail have to do with the matters at hand? Where did the basic principles of democracy go? The last time I looked, I believe our system runs on a plurality of one when elections are conducted. Finally, how can we, in all honesty, ignore the fact that whomever and whichever member of the team to take the responsibility for leaving over $5 million in an account gathering into interest at a low, ridiculous rate of return, when equally safe investment can be made within the municipal formula for investment of community assets at a much higher rate of return. Commentary, where was the oversight? How can anyone accept that it is reasonable to have banking so disorganized that a signing authority was in place for a person who no longer is in the employ of Lions Bay? Again, where was the oversight? How does one ignore the fact that when the mayor took office, there was cabinetry that was locked and to which the mayor was denied access? My final comment, gentlemen, is going forward, we must disregard the bleating of sore losers, pull ourselves together as the community we are, and move on. Thank you.
Next, Amy.
Evening, my name is Jamie Cunliffe. I'm a resident and former municipal councillor for the Village of Lions Bay. And with all due respect, I would like to correct a statement made by Mayor Barry at the special council meeting of February 15th, 2023, commenced at minute 1911 on the recording. This was a statement in regards to the previous council's position on the employment status of the Chief Administration Officer, Peter Dijon. As this information comes out of a closed meeting, I am not at liberty to go into too much detail. I will address what Mayor Barry has already disclosed. I would like to be clear that there was no recommendation provided by the previous council to move in a different direction in regards to Mr. Dijon. Now, to speak to the engagement of outside professional guidance in July of 2022, first, I would like to establish that when the motion to seek professional outside guidance was tabled, the vote was not unanimous. I can speak for myself only. I was in favor of this motion. Let me provide a brief history on the CAO review process. The CAO is the only village staffer that reports directly to council. The review process that was initiated under Mayor Burr's term, it became apparent that our term of council, that a more structured formal review process needed to be implemented, addressing proper measurable key performance indicators. This type of review is common in the private sector. Prior to Mayor Burr's tenure, no CAO had been in the seat long enough to warrant the establishment of such a formal review process. As Mr. De Jong's employment was approaching 7 years, it seemed prudent to create a review process for any person who would be holding the title of CAO for the Village of Lions Bay. And this was a legacy that we had hoped to leave for future councils. With all due respect, I would ask that Mayor Barry recant the statement that was made at the special council meeting in regards to the direction of the previous council and Mr. De Jong's employment. And again, I will speak only for myself, but share sentiments with many residents when I say that I look forward to seeing procedural integrity reestablished at the council table in the very short term. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else would like to say anything? Yes.
Hi, Gail Craig. I just wanted to ask about the situation that occurred on Friday, February the 15th. Unfortunately, the release of the council agenda for that for tonight. There was the agenda package was approved by the CAO CFO, Mr. Miller. And we assume that he did so, and the municipal clerk proceeded to release that to the public. And unfortunately, in doing so, they released some sensitive information from closed meetings that should not have been released openly to the public. This may very well be the first breach of this kind in the municipality. My question is, given this situation, will there be any discipline, shall we say, to these individuals for the most fundamental of errors that anyone with a knowledge of their jobs would not have permitted that to happen? Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I don't have any comments on that.
Anybody else?
Good evening. I've been to the village office multiple times, including today, to ask permission of the CFO to spend money for the spring flowers for the bridge boxes. And this is something I've had to do every year, and I've been doing that for years. But I've always had to ask permission of the CFO before I did it. So my problem is whenever I go to the office, the CFO isn't there. And what I want to say is that since part of the mayor's platform was his intention to have senior staff work in the office from now on, why is the CFO never available to answer a question? I know he's only part-time, but why were these rules put in place for the former CAO and none for this person? I consider that hypocrisy.
Anything else?
No, I
Okay,
just want to know why we have a CFO who's never.
well, as you know, my platform was to bring the staff back to the office, as was all of the other councillors. And we had done that with the hiring of the CAO, which all of us councillors approved, and mayor. And unfortunately, that CAO is no longer here. And so we've got Mr. Miller, the CFO, who has assumed those roles. And as you pointed out, he is part-time, so that's something we're going to have to work on to get more of his time. But thank you very much for that.
My question now is, he's covering 2 full-time jobs. We had 2 people working full-time, and we happened to know they were doing hours of overtime. I don't think it's reasonable to think that a part-time CFO can possibly cover that kind of work. But that's just my comment.
Your point is well taken, and it is a challenge. There's no doubt about it. And it was a great loss losing our CAO, especially since he was a resident of the village. So that was a big loss. Okay, any other questions? Any questions from?
Can I comment?
Zoom, Keller?
Can I comment here on this? I think this is
All right.
a good point that Rose is bringing, that, and it behooves us to move on and find full-time people. We should get on that immediately. And also, as to Gail's point, that as to the release of the information from a closed meeting, I personally found that very disturbing, appalling. It shouldn't have happened. I am very upset by that. And to circle back to what Jamie asked, which is a recanting of that statement as to a mischaracterization of what occurred on the previous council. I'm just wondering if the mayor would like to answer that point at all.
I think we've talked about that at length. There's been many challenges to the former CAO that we lost. And there's been challenges to the CFO who has stepped into those roles as part of his agreement. I don't believe that this village is going to benefit, Councillor Reuter, by you and I debating and arguing this further. I think we have to get down and focus on the business of the village.
Absolutely.
With that, I'll move on to other questions.
This
Do
was
you have any questions?
to an
In the gallery?
answer to
Do
a
we have any
resident.
questions in the gallery, you had mentioned previous that speeches were enough. Do we have any questions?
Can I just say something?
Yes.
No speeches, just one statement. Jamie asked if you'd recant that statement. I said in the last meeting that statement was inaccurate, or whatever I called it. Are you going to recant it or not?
I'll have to review that. I'm not
Okay.
recanting anything at this time. I think that there's a
You'll take-
lot of statements that have been made in the village that we can all review and learn from. So with that, let's move on to the next question.
We have Essan.
Hassan? You've got your hand up. If you take your mute up, thank you.
Hello, Council. Thank you for your time. Hassan Montford. I'm a resident. I've been a resident for 2.5 years, and I won't belabor the point. I sent an email expressing my dismay about the kind of conduct that appears to be happening around the council table. In particular, I haven't been attending and only been seeing some of the stuff that was being posted online, etc. And now I'm seeing it firsthand. I just want to echo the sentiment by the gentleman whose name I did not catch, who said that it's important that we recognize, or I'm paraphrasing here, but in my own words, it's important that we recognize, every single council member around the table, that we just went through a traumatic period with COVID-19 that pitted people of different viewpoints against each other, family members against each other, policymakers against each other, okay? The democratic process, not just in Lions Bay, but in the entire democratic world, including one of the greatest places of democracy, we can debate that, the United States, has been experiencing this erosion of democracy. And it's a real shame that in such a small community of neighbors that have to rely on each other when the power goes out, when you have an elderly neighbor who might need help plowing their driveway, for this kind of discourse, for this kind of lack of civility to be happening. And I'm not taking any sides here. I'm just very concerned about what's happening here. So the points of procedure, I will leave it to council and the mayor to discuss and address and get legal advice about what, a committee member can do, what committees are permitted to do, etc. And let's move on, because we have important issues that the villagers care about. And I really want to bring that to your attention, that at the end of the day, we are all neighbors. And this isn't the House of Commons, folks. Like, we're just neighbors. This is a very small community, and let's do the good work that the people sent you there to do, and that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you for those comments. Next, Maria.
Randy?
Randy, you're on mute.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say that a timely by-election is critical right now. You're each voted in by villagers participating in a democratic process. And I'm worried that after watching the last meeting, that some councillors are working together to turn their backs on that process. It looks like purposeful stalling of this much needed by-election. And in this community, the council seems split. So it'd be wonderful to see village leaders working together despite some differences of opinion, and help bridge some gaps and set a positive example. I think it would be easier to work together more effectively if there was accountability for one's own actions. You spent so much time debating over the hiring freeze well after you all voted and participated in hiring staff. There are 4 adults on council, all ran on a campaign for change and subsequently voted of their own free will to end the contract with the former CAO. All voted to hire the interim CAO and CFO, and all voted to hire our new fire chief. Some of you seem to now be backing away from your choices and spend meetings blaming and finger pointing at one person, one of the votes, one of your team. Take accountability for your own actions and be productive. To me, a lot of what has transpired over the last couple of months has demonstrated some of Lions Bay's true colors. The outrage and anger seen in some public commentary and letters to council can only be about who was elected and not the actions. From the moment some of these newer Lions Bayers started campaigning with some different ideas, they were accused of being divisive, simply for running against the incumbents. While I respect and admire those who have helped build this community, I do think we need to have more respect for this council that villagers elected. Nobody in this village is more important than any other. We're all equal, and that's a cornerstone of this country. There's also been ugly insinuations and slanderous remarks about interim staff and elected officials. The former administration handed out contracts worth significantly more than these temp positions through completely private or invite-only processes without a word from this group that now seems outraged. The village paid for a garage in Brunswick for a single residence, and no complaint from the outrage group. In the past, residents' letters to council were often not included in the council package because they were negative. A recorded election meeting wasn't posted publicly. Nothing from the outrage group. So it's difficult for me to see now how anything happening now deserves the kind of outrage that's been demonstrated, since I can see that the work being done, though difficult, is moving the village in the right direction. This council, the whole council, has made some big gains with financial controls, governing policies, and interest earnings in the short time they've had access to information. That interest is a lot of money for our little village. In fact, we probably didn't even need that massive tax hike had this been done only a year ago. If the Lions Bay way is about collaboration, community, and creating a friendly environment, it's time to walk the walk. This means respecting the residents and visitors, respecting council and those with different ideas. We need to do away with having a different set of rules for certain villagers. You are all elected to represent our Lions Bay, all of us. Don't get wrapped up in the weekly outrage of a few. So my ask of each of you is that you get back on track and work together for the best interest of the village and schedule a by-election. While the by-election needs to be done according to the rules, holding the process hostage to the rules is not in the best interest of the village taxpayers. You should all be quickly defining the correct procedure, following it, and completing the by-election as soon as possible. It's not right to try and maintain power by stifling democracy. Thank you.
Well.
All right, Marina, please.
Yeah, Eric.
Sorry.
Eric.
Eric, please unmute.
Another smart.
Thank you. I have, So my questions and concerns are surrounding the building inspector. As council is aware, there are millions of dollars in residential building and development going on in the village as we speak. Dave Butler resigned 2 weeks ago, or almost 2 weeks ago, give or take. Was council aware in advance that or even given any notice that Dave intended to resign? Is my first question. What steps have council taken to hire a new building inspector? And when will a new building inspector be in place? There are inherent risks to, not having a building inspector, working as these construction projects go along. Our village is built on the side of a mountain. There are, risks in terms of, potential landfalls, for those in new construction. I just like to find out what the council has done, what they knew, and what they're going to do regarding a building inspector.
All right, I'll open it up. There was no notice other than Dave's resignation. The notice will be posted for a building inspector in the next day or two. I think it's being approved, or it's been written up and reviewed and approved. There's been outreach to other communities and West Van in particular, Bowen Island, and looking for some part-time help. And then we've also reached out to architects and engineers. So that's all I have. Anything from the other council members?
Summarize.
Yeah, the council is very concerned and proceeded with it as quickly as possible. So.
Right. I mean, this obviously this is there's financial considerations, there's liability considerations, there's lots to go on, go around, and I mean, I understand that the process was just initiated 3 days ago, but Dave Butler resigned almost 2 weeks ago. So, was there a reason for the delay?
As I said, there's been an outreach right from the day that he resigned.
Immediately.
So that was immediate.
Thank you.
Okay, next question.
We have John.
John.
Yeah, hi, thank you for taking my question. My question also is about Dave Butler. I read an interview with him in the Lions Bay watershed, and my understanding from that interview was that he volunteered to stay on for free and oversee the remaining open construction cases that were in the village, and that he offered to do this for free. He had two conditions. He wanted the council members, that council members needed to respect boundaries and office areas of the staff, and vacant positions would not be filled by friends of friends. And I'm curious as to which of these conditions was considered inappropriate or unacceptable, and why. Because I do agree that we need to have a building inspector in place, and we could have had a building inspector in place all this time had that his offer been accepted.
Well, I'll just answer for myself, and then we can go and ask the other councilors. This is the first that I've heard of that, so thank you very much for that feedback, because I've never heard of any of the comments that you've made. So thank you for that.
Those were what Dave said in the interview. So I don't know who exactly he was speaking to. I don't remember. But it was someone, it was either the mayor or some councilman.
So I'll just speak as the mayor. Again, this is where a lot of these either rumors or misinformation coming from, and somebody heard from somebody else and then they repeat it. And then what happens is they now own that remark, or that in some cases it could be slander. So I think we've had a little bit too much of that circulate around the village, and we just need to focus on actual conversations and information. So I'm telling you that what you've repeated here online is the first that I've heard of that.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I read the same article, John. I haven't spoken to Dave Butler for a while. If those are his two conditions and he's prepared to come back and work, and I think it was a quote, even for free, I think we'd be well advised to take them. So maybe one of us should reach out to.
Okay, can I also comment, John? I mean, I read that article as well. I had a conversation with Dave 2 weeks ago where he made the same offer and asked me to express it to the mayor and council. I had a meeting with together with Councillor Abbott with the CFO at the time and communicated that offer. The expectation was that the offer would be carried to the mayor, so I'm surprised that the mayor hasn't heard about that until he heard about the article, because that was a meeting that occurred on Friday, 11 days ago. So that offer was communicated 11 days ago through the CFO to the mayor.
Okay, I'll just say again, we've got a lot of people that are circumventing the CAO and the staff. And I think it's not helpful to the village, and it's not helpful to the residents and just the governing of the village and democracy. So, you know, they have a one employee rule, which is the CAO, and you know, we need to start respecting that, because it's circumventing and undermining our staff and making it very difficult to conduct business for the village. So that's all I'll say to that.
Okay, can I jump in? Can I just jump in and say that if it's about conducting business through the CAO, that I took this offer together with Neville to the CAO to impart it to you. And that was before the recent hire was made. So that was as per your rules 11 days ago.
So once again, we see the circumventing of the staff, the CFO.
Sorry,
and
a point of order.
In regards to, yeah, let's move on.
Can we move on?
Okay, next question.
We've tried to have a no speeches agreement.
Next question,
earlier, so
please.
Next, we have Pardeep.
Pardeep, if you'll unmute, please.
Yes, and there we go. Hello, I'm Pardeep. I'm one of the builders of the 3 constructions that are going on in Lions Bay. And so Eric and I are together, and we're doing our houses together. Anyhow, so basically every step of construction requires an inspection from the city that needs to get passed. And our houses are completely stuck. They can't move forward because we can't get an inspection, right? And not only that, there's other houses. There's a house on Brunswick Beach. I mean, his owner couldn't be here today. And then there's other people that are need permits. I mean, that's a separate thing, but where, you know, we've already exposed the soil and, you know, a risk for soil erosion with one of the houses, you know, if it's left exposed without backfill. And in order to get backfill, you have to approve drain tile. So we were waiting for drain tile to be approved, and anyhow, so we're completely stuck and can't move forward without a building inspector. And Dave Butler is awesome, but you know, he can't be around. I mean, if there's any way of bringing him back, that would be great. And if you absolutely can't, could you please find a way of bringing a building inspector ASAP, because this is holding us back in so many ways and financially as well.
Okay, thank you. If you reach out to the CFO, I know he has been in discussions with architects and engineers, and so perhaps there's some help there. I know your frustration, I hear it. I'm feeling the frustration, having had our election process voted down at the last meeting, so this is a very challenging time for everyone, and I will report later on in the meeting that we have reached out to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. We have a meeting on Thursday morning at 11 a.m. for the council and the mayor to participate in, and we're hoping that they can provide some guidance. So it's been very difficult, and we hear your frustration.
Can I comment? Michael?
Yeah. Mr. Butler resigned at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday night, I think. And I believe that by the next morning, council was reaching out, looking at alternatives, recognizing that there was going to be, serious inconvenience to residents and really cause serious problems. So we're very anxious to deal with the situation and move forward as quickly as possible. Look at different options. But including, having reached out to local communities to see if they can help out. And
thank you.
This.
This sort of situation has happened in other communities as well. Apparently, Pemberton had lost their inspector. They had to get it from a different municipality.
That's right.
Then Burnaby had lost their building inspector way back in the day, and they had to get one from Delta. And so it's happened before, and
for sure,
hopefully we can make it work.
Yeah.
Definitely. We are reaching out and we want to rectify this as quickly as possible. So thank you.
So comment on that. One of the asks was whether it would be possible to bring Dave Butler back. I mean, I think that is something that should be explored. And I think all he was asking for was that, and his condition seemed to me to be entirely reasonable, that we proceed with order in our meetings and as a council. And I think that would be something that should be explored. I anticipate that there are more people who are going to be feeling hardship on this front, and that the village will be exposed to liability on this front. And I just want to comment again on the notion that we had refused to move the election forward. Randy brought this up. I mean, just to be clear, there was a motion. Yeah, I'm responding to something I explained. Sorry, could you stop interrupting me, please? Yeah, you made a speech as to the election. The election, the by-election was not stymied in the last meeting. It was simply that we couldn't move forward with the publishing because we hadn't passed the first two resolutions.
That's correct.
Which was something that you recommended at the beginning of the meeting. So let's stop putting out there the notion to residents that we're trying to kill a by-election. We all want to move ahead with it. So let's just stop.
Okay, with that, I'm just going to respond to Councilor Reuter. So I wrote a letter on Friday afternoon, and this was
this is inappropriate. Point of order. Point of order. This is a point. This is no time for speech. Let's
go
back there.
Here that I will read later in the meeting.
Point of order.
This is all
put it away.
Proceed and about the stymie.
Point of order.
So stop.
Okay.
We'll move to the next question, please.
We have Mary Brown.
Mary Brown.
Thank you. So far tonight, I've heard some statements and some questions, but I've heard very few answers. Please answer these two questions. The grant for the Klatt building rebuild expires on December 31st. Are there approved building plans to put forward? Question number one. Will the building be completed by December 31st, or will the grant money expire? Question number two. Please answer.
Now you're online. Do you want to answer that?
So Ms. Brown, the issued for tender drawings based on a certain construction methodology were prepared and ready to be issued in December, on December 15th, I believe. So they're ready to be issued.
Are we going to come in under the December 31st deadline, or is that money going to go?
I can't answer that, sorry. It depends on when the, go ahead.
Maybe we have just discussed this in the closed meeting. We are going back into closed. Why don't we see if we can come up with an agreed reporting out of that meeting? We've had this discussion, but you're asking Knight to say something that was discussed in the closed meeting. He's hesitating because he shouldn't. So how about we get a reporting out at the end of the session, and you'll see it in the next minutes.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Next question.
We have Dave Small.
James.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for entertaining my call here. Regarding the building inspector, I understand that, Mayor, you did not manage to get hold of the response from Dave Butler saying that he'd like to potentially come back to work. Now that you know that, perhaps you could extend an olive branch and perhaps work to bring him back?
James, I'm always open to speak with anyone in the village. I've said that in the past, so I'm here and available. And wonderful. I think, James, just to further, James, hopefully the outreach that you made to me personally and the help that I tried to provide, hopefully that gave you a little bit of comfort that we're actually motivated to get things done here.
Absolutely, thank you, and I very much appreciate it. I do have some concerns potentially about the availability of a new building inspector, which is part of the reason I'm so keen on potentially bringing Dave back. That being said, Dave, of course, has been an extraordinarily fantastic building inspector for the previous 2 builds I've done in the village.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any up on Zoom. Any here in the gallery? Yes.
I'm confused. Perhaps you could straighten this out for me. My understanding from what I've just heard, if I may address it, is that Councillor Abbott and Councillor Reuter read the watershed, saw the interview, talked about it with each other, and were going to take it to you, but you didn't hear about it.
I didn't read the watershed, and I never spoke with anyone. Yeah.
Sorry, Arlene, let me clarify.
No, I'm not. May I?
Okay, sure.
What I'm trying to say is you two read the interview, you talked together, you were going to make sure. Well, you said that.
I'm trying to explain it. No, we didn't.
No, well, you can explain it when I'm through. Thank you very much. And I said, my confusion is, you did not read the watershed, and so you did not know about this.
No.
That's all I need to know. Thank you very much.
Can I clarify what we said? You quoted us incorrectly. We spoke about it. We took it to the CAO, CFO, as we are obligated to do. And that's where it died, by all account.
But you don't share it with the mayor?
No, we communicated it as per the regulations that seem to be in place 11 days ago. Dave's offer to the CFO, CAO to take to the mayor.
That's what the procedures say.
Okay,
yes.
That's fine. It was just that I gleaned from your attitude half an hour ago that that's all right. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, is there any other questions? Rebecca, this will be the last question, I think, and then we'll move on as we've got a lot of things to cover. So Rebecca.
Hi there. So my question is actually for all of council. So regardless of the reason for doing it, as a council, you agreed to terminate the previous CAO without cause. And now you've been served with papers indicating a forthcoming lawsuit. So what can you do as a council to mitigate that damage to the village?
Okay, I'll just comment that, I don't know of any of the information that you're referring to, and if I did know of information, we wouldn't be able to discuss that. But quite frankly, I've never heard of any of that information. Any comments from the other councillors?
I think Rebecca may be referring to the minutes that went out, sorry, the agenda that went out that had closed meeting.
That's right.
Agenda in it.
Okay, I didn't see those.
So they went out, as I think we all know, on Friday, there was an error. They had a part of the closed agenda in the open agenda. That's what Rebecca is referring to. And I guess the answer to that, Rebecca, it's now back where it should be in the closed. And we can't really say anything until it's resolved and we report out.
Land, labor, and law are closed topics for discussion, so it's in a closed session.
Okay, so at some point, will you be letting the village know what the repercussions are? And
I think that we've all been highly motivated to release information as soon as we possibly can. And in doing so, we've been doing so whenever we can. So we will, I'm certainly committed to releasing information as soon as it's available, legally available. We follow the law.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's the last question, so we'll move on.
We have one more question there.
I'd mentioned that the last one was the last one. Do we want to do one more then?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, this is the last question, and Penny, over to you.
I just want to follow up on what Arlene had to say. The way I understood it, on a point of clarification here, is that between Neville and Marcus, the issue of Dave Butler's conditions happened well before the watershed article and was taken to the CAO, CFO, whatever, well before the watershed came out. Can Neville and Marcus please comment on that?
That is what we said. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the watershed article might have come out in the last couple of days. Our discussion with the CFO, CAO was 11 days ago, and that was to impart the offer that Dave had made to the mayor through the CAO, CFO at the time. So I would assume and hope that would have been done. So the mayor should have been aware of that offer Friday, 2 weeks ago.
Thank you. That's what I understood from what you were trying to say earlier.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just make clear again, I didn't get that offer, and I would have expected Dave would come in or give me a call, Dave and I.
Excuse me, on a point of order, Ken, you're now speechifying.
Thank you. Can we move on?
Yeah, we'll move on. Thank you, Penny. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to item number 7 on the agenda. So the review and approval of the minutes of the prior meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Which ones do we do?
Could we approve them in their entirety, or do we need
We
to break
can
them
do
apart?
entirety, or we can do them individually.
I would move that we approve them in their entirety.
Okay, a second.
We could, if you like. I have 2 comments on D and E and nothing on the others.
Okay, so then I'll take that as a
So you want to
second.
approve A, as far as I can say, when you want to approve A, B, and C, I have no comment.
Okay, and any
I've got
comments on B and E?
I've got a comment on A.
So we may as well do the one at a time.
All right.
Let's separate them up.
Okay, 7A.
Move 7A that we approve 7A.
Okay, a second.
Yes.
All right, discussion.
I thought there was something in here. Fortunately, our agenda doesn't have any page numbers. But on page 6 of the Lions Bay Beach Park Committee, under item B, Wasn't it that councillors Broughton and Barmeyer be appointed as co-chairs? Or was it chair and co-chair at the time? I thought they were co-chairs.
It was actually chair and co-chair at the time.
I recall it being co-chairs, but
Yeah, I know you may recall that, but that was the minutes at the time, yeah.
Okay. Any other edits?
No, on that one.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
with the correction of co-chairs or chair and co-chair?
No, there's no correction.
Okay, we'll vote that in favor. The motion carried. Okay, item number 7B. Special meeting of November 30th. Do we have a motion to approve those? Second?
I'll second.
Sorry, who made the motion?
I'll make the motion.
And second?
Second, yeah.
Okay, discussion?
I'm good.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried. Okay. Item number 7C, we have a motion to approve those minutes, December 8th.
I'll put that forward.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Or discussion?
Discussion. I'd like to provide the copy of the minutes of December the 8th as provided to council on December the 14th.
These are
2022.
a point of order. These are
Closed minutes.
closed minutes.
These are the closed.
These do not belong in this meeting.
The closed minutes of them. I'm not sharing these with the public, but I just would like to be clear that these minutes were distributed on Wednesday, December the 14th. 2022 at 8:24 p.m.
Michael, why did we not
We're
get
now
this in the
having
closed
some
meeting?
difficulty accepting these minutes on February the 21st.
On a point of order, through the chair, we just discussed this in the closed meeting and this didn't come up and now we're not open.
I've provided you with a copy of them. So there you are.
Copy received.
Okay, received.
Thank you.
All right, back to 7C. Do we have any further discussion on those?
Not for me.
See which one, sorry.
That's the December 8th.
No,
open.
come back, no, good with that.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. All right, 7D, regular council meeting, January 30th. We have a motion to approve those.
Put it forward.
Second, some discussion.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah.
Neville, go ahead.
On page 16, or sorry, page 3 of 11 of the actual minutes, following the agenda page numbers. There's two statements, one in response to Rose Dudley. Council responded noting that in his big statement, and then two further down, there's another one, oh, sorry, the next one down, Rebecca Casperton. Council responded noting that, and I think in those two, very clear those responses were not an opinion of council, they were the mayor's. And I think, if it's a common council response, I think that's acceptable. If it's just the mayor responds, I'd like to see the minutes recorded as the mayor responded. That's item D and item E.
I'm good with that.
Sorry, item D you're saying?
D in response to Rose Dudley and E in response to Rebecca Casperson.
I think it says was provided to the councillors for review by the mayor. Didn't it say that?
No, the minutes read, council responded noting that, and then there's a big statement.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one in response to Rebecca Casperson says, council responded noting that it was working to
So change council to mayor?
to the mayor, when it's clearly just the mayor's statement.
That's fine.
Can we make it as the mayor? Thank you.
And I think it says mayor later on down, but that's
And the first one does, further down, yeah.
okay. Any other changes?
Yeah, I've got a question as to something on page 18 of the package. I just want to point out there this would be 11B. that the CAO at the time was to bring material back to council for review as to the fire chief's contract, which didn't occur. And there's an item at page 21.
Sorry, are you trying to add something to this? Is that what you're doing? Or are you trying to?
I'm just drawing some attention to it. And on
Business
page,
arising?
and yep.
Business arising? We should do,
Yeah.
get to business arising.
Right.
I do have one other correction on that same page.
Go ahead.
So we're providing edits and that we're not rewriting the minutes, so.
Okay.
Is
He's
there,
gonna bring it up in the business arising.
okay,
I have an edit.
yeah,
On that same section, reports 10B, in the second paragraph, it says, during discussion was noted that none of the communities in the area of similar size have retained municipal coordinators. That's incorrect. Municipal clerks is what that statement should be.
That's fine. Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, any other changes? All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried. Okay, item 7E, and that would be the February 7th meeting and the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve those? Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Yeah. I'll motion forward.
Second,
Second.
okay, discussion.
Oh, could I add?
Page 2, on page, Michael, are you going or am I going?
Go ahead.
As Michael pointed out earlier, page 25, it is Arlene Hailstrom, the name that was missing. And on the same page, there's a date that's wrong. Sorry, give me a second. I'm just trying to find it. There's a date stated wrong. Give me 1 second, maybe someone else can go.
Arlene, I was just, you were an unidentified speaker.
Oh, I like
So,
that.
okay. So we've now made you the.
I found the dates.
Thank you.
On section 13, moved and seconded. This is about the Lions Bay connector. This is November 1st, 2023. And then in the next paragraph below it does the same, makes the same mistake. I think we suspect that should be November 1st, 2022.
That's right, yeah.
Can I just point out that we seem to have between 28 and 31 on the pages of our package. We've got a doubling up of the same one, so we might want to strike pages 28 to 31 and just keep 11 to 24 as to what we're approving here.
Yes, you could.
Okay, any other changes? No, motion to approve. All in
Yes.
favor?
Yes.
As amended, right? Motion to approve as amended.
Yeah. Those in favor, okay. All right, we'll move to item number 8, business arising. And okay. Any business arising from that? No?
Yes, I did have a couple of things. Sorry, and I dropped it now. What was the first item? That was as to the well, there was an item in 7D on the 31st. Let me just go to page 18 here. Sorry, I'm losing it here.
All right, we're gonna move on then.
No, hang on, we're not moving on yet. Hang on 1 second.
What do you have? For us?
There was there was on page, pardon me, let me move to 7E, which was page 26. Which were the minutes, which were under item 7E. There's something in here.
All right, well, you can consider that. Why don't we just move on to?
I've got it.
Item then.
No, I've got it here, which was that we had some information that was supposed to come regarding the speculation tax. I don't see it in this meeting. That item has dropped.
Okay, that's not on the agenda, and
Sure, but that's business arising from that.
well, why
Yeah,
don't we put that under new business? And you didn't bring that up in the adjustments to the agenda.
it wasn't an adjustment. It's just business arising that it is something
All right.
that's undone.
Okay, so I'll move to the next item, number 9, which is unfinished business follow-up actions. July 5th, we had the highway maintenance follow-up. Report that would be issued. Anything further on that? Councilor Broughton.
We're still waiting on that report, February 28th. So that's just, we're leaving it there so that we'll pay attention to it at the end of the month.
Okay. Next
Yeah, on top
item,
of it, yeah.
First Nations acknowledgement for agendas. That was an item that you
Okay,
were.
I had indicated in the last meeting that I would bring wording to this meeting. So I'll just put it on table and suggest that we bring it forward for the next committee meeting, for the next council meeting. But just for the information of the gallery, and it's a simple statement consistent with what's currently being said at the Lions Bay School and consistent with input that I've received from the village. And I have an ongoing request with the Squamish Nation for input, but have not received input from them at this point. But it's simply, we are privileged to be meeting and doing work on the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish and Musqueam nations. This is a very simple acknowledgement, which has become very appropriate at the beginning of public meeting. So I'll bring that forward to the next council meeting.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Next item is the Lions Bay connector and follow-up.
Could I suggest that in light of how much there is to do with the by-election and everything else, that the Lions Bay connector it was to be brought into open. It is now it's been delayed, and nothing's to go forward for 90 days. We did that at the last meeting, and we were going to bring forward all the information and post it and so on. But I'm just thinking in terms of how busy things are over the next, at least till the next meeting, that we defer doing that, because it will just, generate questions that we will not have time to answer. And because there's no urgency, the project is currently delayed, that we would delay this until at the next meeting, or possibly the second meeting in March. So could I make a motion that we leave the release of the Lions Bay connector information to a subsequent meeting?
Okay, second.
Sarah, do we want to bring it forward? Do we want to release that?
So I'll second it.
Okay, discussion.
I'm not sure why we should delay putting the information out there. We could delay the debate in the council chambers, but
okay,
if it's ready to go, why not put it out there? Let residents start reading it.
Okay. Well, I think if it generates questions, will there be an ability to answer those questions initially? So anyway, I'm fine with it, but I was just.
I'd agree, put the information out there. We can, so residents can familiarize themselves with it, and then we can discuss that another
Well,
time.
that was my original intent. So
Right.
I'm
Okay,
fine.
yeah, so we'll just leave that as.
I defer to the wisdom of council.
Okay. CFO, so we'll be posting information. I guess we'll work with NIA on posting information that's available.
It was available in the last closed meeting, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right, we'll move to the
Sorry,
next.
before we move on, now understanding what Marcus was trying to say there earlier. So the item that was on unfinished business for several weeks about the speculation tax is not resolved, but it's gone off the unfinished business. Should it not still be there?
I'm fine with it there.
Yeah, well, it resolves, it should stay there till we resolve.
Okay.
So can we put it back onto the unfinished
Yeah, let's
business
put it back on.
for the next meeting?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Do we have anything as to that for this meeting?
I don't have anything. Do you have anything?
I was assuming you would have something possibly, reaching out to the Ministry of Finance, I think, which is the undone.
No, I reported last time what I had.
I believe you said you'd spoken to somebody at Metro Vancouver, but the direction had been to reach out to the Ministry of Finance.
I don't have anything further.
Okay.
Have anything?
No, so I just want to confirm that you will be reaching out to the Ministry of Finance and have something for us at our next meeting?
You said that you would assist on this. You offered to step in. I said, that's fabulous. You step in. And so, no, if there's any information to come, I'm hoping that you're going to bring it to the table for the next meeting.
Hang on, let me just correct that. I had never said that I'm going to step in. I said that I would be happy to assist, but where we left it was that you would reach out to the Ministry of Finance. And so we had said that that would be the first step and that I would work with you once that step had been accomplished. I'm asking that you do that.
I am fine with you stepping out and getting information on it. Okay, we'll put this on. And as I said, I'll be working with the municipal affairs on other matters. So I'm focused on that. If you can bring something to the table on this, it would be wonderful. And we would appreciate that.
Okay.
So thank you.
Let me say to that we've had some issues in the past where you consider me to be out of my lane if I'm reaching out to other municipalities or let me finish a point of order, please. And let me just finish that if you're asking me to step forward on this, that I will take point on it and that you will then support me in that endeavor. Are we good with that?
You've offered to step forward. I have no problem with you reaching out, getting information. Just if you're reaching out to any dignity or any other mayors like you did last time without proper authority, I think you should probably check in with either the CAO or myself.
A point of order again, I did not reach out to any other mayors. Let's just settle this and let's just make it simple. If you want me to take point on this, I will. But then I will be reaching out to the Ministry of Finance and I then expect your backing and support on it.
I am fine with you reaching out.
Good. Okay, then I will do that. Very good. Thank you. And one other item that it seems to me, which is again, the elephant in the room that should be under unfinished business, which is that in our last meeting, in open meeting, you had indicated that you would be reaching out to the ministry the next morning as to the important issue of the by-election. I would have expected something in open meeting here for residents to see resolving that.
I was going to say order of the day. This is out of order.
It's completely out of order. The chair will take this. It's completely out of order, but I'm going to read what I sent to the ministry the next day, okay? Because this has come up and I get challenged on this and it's just wasting the whole village's time here.
Okay, then.
So I reached out the next morning by phone, okay? And then I followed up with a letter and I said, Dear Patrick, I reached out to your office on December 7th for feedback in organizing a by-election as one of our councillors had tendered his resignation just 4 weeks after our fall election. Further to our telephone calls and emails this week, the 15th and 16th of February, I called a special meeting of Lions Bay, February 15th, to approve the election documents prior to sending them out to your ministry and posting the documents in order to meet the statutory deadlines under the legislation to hold the Village of Lions Bay by-election scheduled for April 15th.
I'm sorry. A point of order, a point of
voted to block the sending out of the election.
Point of order again, this is not the appropriate place for this. There's an area there where you wanted to bring a verbal report. You want to be like speechifying again?
Point taken, but I'm responding to your comments, okay? We let you speak, now let me finish. The democratic process is being frustrated.
Okay, point of order again, point of order again,
fully elected council.
I'm speechifying.
Well, I'm responding to your comment.
No, you're not responding, you're speechifying.
And I'll read this again later on, but this is a letter that went to the ministry on Friday asking for their help
That's what
Because we need a by-election, which is being blocked
Yes.
and interfered with.
absolutely untrue. Ken.
So,
Absolutely untrue.
okay,
So now we're all gonna want
so
to have our say now.
Point-
How are we gonna go back to this?
now we'll,
No one,
point of order.
no one has
Okay?
ever blocked an election.
Yeah, I'll let you speak if you'll let me finish reading.
No, it's a.
You wanna, if you let me finish reading, then I'll let you speak.
I think none of us should need to speechify. Just get to the
Well,
agenda.
we're hearing Marcus step out of the boundaries here. The chair has tried to put a ring on him.
Simple,
Okay,
simple.
gentlemen, order
Simple
today.
question.
Could we return to the agenda?
Yes,
And could the chair please return to the agenda? And
okay.
next item.
Thank you for that. We'll return to item number 10 and the reports. And this is the staff, and we'll ask Mr. Miller to comment on the budget or provide an update on the budget and the work that you've been conducting. So thank you.
I'll just give a quick report. This afternoon, I met with the finance committee. We went over really what we've done on the utilities report and the budget. They're basically ready to be presented to the council as a committee before they go through the readings, and hoping to do that in the next week or two, whenever the council is ready.
Sorry, you presented something to the finance committee?
No, I talked about it this afternoon. Same thing I'm doing right now.
Okay, but so the budgets, all that stuff will come to council first.
Yes. It has not come to the finance committee yet.
Okay.
I'm hoping to do it all at one time.
The council will see it first.
Council or finance committee, however they want to do it. It is a budget which could go through the finance committee, but it's.
I would like that, and I believe that's as per the correct procedures, that budgets, utilities, taxes, all those things come to council first, and then council decide what goes to the committee, not the other way around. And if anyone disagrees with me on that, then I'll prepare to put a resolution forward, but I'm 100% convinced that is the correct procedure.
May I ask the CAO to check in with our legal counsel on the procedure on that, whether it needs to go to council first or to the committee? So maybe you can make an outreach to our legal counsel and find out the proper procedure on that.
And could I add that any answer you receive on that, you bring that back to council before anything goes to the purported finance committee on the budget.
Point
Seem
of
reasonable?
order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Councillor Reuter is now referred to the finance committee, duly appointed finance committee, as the purported, alleged, and all the various other terms.
Purported was what I said.
We alleged earlier this evening. And so the finance committee is duly formed, consistent with the terms of reference, the law and bylaws of the Village of Lions Bay, and the continuous undermining of the processes of the Village of Lions Bay has become intolerable. Earlier this evening, I was asked to bring my notes and as the minutes of a meeting that I reported were challenged. And 2 months after they had been provided to Mr.
Michael, come on a point of order.
Purported finance committee.
Yeah, but you're bearing in some other territory.
This is so so offensive. It's
Let
beyond.
Councilor Broughton finish and then put up your hand and I'll go to you next, please.
Okay. Okay, the finance committee is duly appointed. The terms of reference state clearly what the terms of reference are. And the role of the committee is advisory to council. That's very clear. Committee members serve at the pleasure of the mayor. That is very clear. The information that they may access is extremely clearly defined. The role that they play is extremely important to this community and is completely and clearly defined. And I ask all council to refer very carefully to the terms of reference because they are profoundly clear and they are legal and they are following our bylaws, which is what this council is to do. And will do as in anything that I am involved in.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brown.
And the word
Councillor
speechify,
Ryder.
excuse me, is not a word.
Okay. Councillor Ryder.
Yeah, there's one, you say it's all operating by bylaw. Let me just ask you a simple question. In our procedures bylaw, are you gonna let me speak? Have I got the floor now? Thank you. Section 52 of our procedures bylaw once again says that committees will undertake review into matters as directed by council, and that includes the standing committees. No direction of council has ever been given to the finance committee. It has never come here. I wonder why, and I wonder what standing committee will be established next and get no direction from council. So that is a bylaw. That requirement has never been met. I ask myself, why don't you bring this to have direction given by council? It's that simple. And that's why I refer to it as a purported finance committee, because it isn't operating as per our bylaw. Plain and simple. Bring it to the table.
Councillor Abbott.
I agree largely with what Councillor Reuters just said. I was made aware of the Finance Committee meeting this afternoon and some of the questions and clearly misunderstanding as to what things meant and projects and could really have been cleared up if we came to council first. Because they're really, obviously the people in the room didn't actually know any of the history and what they were talking about. It would have been a lot simpler if it had come to council first. Because those answers were known. If we come to council first, get some clear direction, the committee can do good work. Just having them out there talking about things they don't understand or don't know is not getting us anywhere.
Okay, well, Councillor Abbott, you were invited to join that, or actually you were appointed and you declined the appointment to the Finance Committee, and that was I was sorry to see that. So with that in mind, we've got some great volunteers on that Finance Committee, and I think that this type of conversation just discourages volunteerism in the village. Sorry, let me finish. And I think that we have to take the village, the best interest of the village first. I think that this gamesmanship that's going on is embarrassing to everyone. It's embarrassing to the residents. It should be embarrassing to us at the table here. And I know that reaching out to the municipal affairs, they're also a little bit wondering, okay, how are they going to help us? And they're about to step in is what I'm hearing. So, I think we have to start thinking about the village's best interest. So, okay.
Can I just one final comment? Can I just make one final comment?
Yes.
On what you just said? I absolutely agree with you. I think there's great people on that committee. There's great residents that can step up to these committees. If we structure it such that it comes to council first, where the depth of the knowledge is known, they can work efficiently instead of starting with the committee. That's all I'm saying. Final word, and I'm glad the ministry's coming in to help us out.
As you will recall, the committee was struck quite short notice as a result of a very serious.
Don't go down this rabbit hole.
Sorry, let Councillor Broughton finish off. Go ahead, Councillor Broughton.
I did not interrupt you.
Don't go there.
I did not interrupt you.
Councillor Broughton, finish, please.
The committee was struck on a very, very short timeline based on information that became evident and banking information and concerns that were identified, completely consistent with the terms of reference of the committee.
Point of order, this is not the discussion on the table.
We're having a discussion about the committee, the standing committee, the finance committee, and there was some question as to why it was struck. And
no, there wasn't a question.
It was struck because there was serious banking issues.
A point of order again, this is speechifying about the conspiracy theories about disorders.
Just not going there.
Lay it to rest. It's been debunked
Okay.
multiple
I
times.
rest my case. The conspiracy
Okay.
theories included $5.7 million.
All right,
Under investment.
all debunked.
Without, no, excuse me, that is
Michael,
completely untrue.
Guilty as charged.
That is completely untrue.
For every other councillor for the last 15 years, we guilty as charged. We missed it. Move on. I'm the only one at the table to take responsibility, so I'll take all of it. But it's been going on for the 20 years. Guilty as charged. Let's move on to some positive things.
We're not moving on. We're not talking
Okay.
guilt. We're talking about addressing the situation in a
It's
time.
done. It should have been done a month ago in 1 week. We don't even need to talk about it anymore. I hope it's done by now. Let's move on.
Okay,
This is what's.
Okay.
That is
All right.
preposterous statement to make when you would not support it being dealt with.
Not true.
Excuse me.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Absolutely not true. Absolutely not
all
true.
right, we'll move
Read the
on now.
resolutions.
The single signing authority on a $5.8 million account is now rectified, so we can move on. Okay.
Sorry, that is again a
Okay,
complete
just move on.
mischaracterization.
Okay, we're gonna move on,
Stop with it.
and we'll move to the mayor's report, and I was asked to read out this
You can read this
this
again.
letter in the mayor's report. I won't read the first two paragraphs, which I read. The third paragraph goes on to say the democratic process is being frustrated. This may result in the village of Lions Bay being denied the rights to have a fully elected council to carry on business of managing the village affairs in a timely manner and in accordance with the governing legislation. As requested by you, I have enclosed the proposal of Lori Dixon and Grant McRadu, former CAO of West Vancouver, and the CAO of the Village of Lions Bay has also been referred. Mark Brown has been referred as a potential replacement. As mayor, I would welcome the deputy inspector for the ministry to visit our village and meet with each council member on the election issue. I would also welcome, with the approval of council, which was given, your offer to fund a facilitator to meet and work with council regarding the appointment of a new elections officer and getting the election process on track. Most importantly, I'm reaching out to your ministry for the assistance to ensure our democratic process can move forward in a timely manner. So that letter will be followed up on Thursday with a phone call with the councilors at the table and the mayor and the CFO, and the ministry will hopefully provide us some guidance so that we can get to an orderly election.
Great news.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other information? Let's see. I didn't have any information. The council, any information that you would like to put forward?
On, sorry, which matter are you? Any information on?
This is on 10 city council. Okay, nothing. We'll move to item number 10D, which is the committees, and Councillor Abbott and Councillor Broughton. Please give us some background on the Lions Bay Beach Committee and any activities that we should know about.
Okay, well, as everyone at the table is aware, we had a closed meeting discussion on some contractual matters, and we haven't quite finalized that, and hopefully we can report out something at the end of the next session. We have a path forward, so can't really discuss that. We have a committee meeting on Thursday, and we will be able to impart some of this knowledge, whatever we can, report out to the committee. And we have some action plans that the CFO, CAO is going to help us take forward there. It's looking good. The committee themselves are marching along. The non-resident council members of the committee are marching along with concepts and designs. And a great workshop last weekend, I think it was, with the kids. And yeah, I think we're making progress. We are obviously a little behind the original project plan, but we are not in any danger on the grant. We have good time to get it finished. And I think that's kind of where we're at. There'll be more next meeting after Thursday, the next council meeting after Thursday.
We had a meeting today at the beach regarding the jetty, and some great input on the jetty and the access for the various beechcrafts. In addition, as Councillor have it stated, there was a workshop, I believe it was last week, and another one this week for the children. And the photos that I saw, that looked like a great event. From last week, I think it was the older children last week and the younger children. I believe it was today or it's tomorrow. So and we're really looking forward to a very productive meeting on Thursday, I should say.
Okay,
It's going well, and I think it's going to be a very exciting project.
well, that's good to hear. Any questions? Comments? No? Okay, we'll move to item number D2, and that's the Board of Variance meeting, February 8th. The recommendation was that the council receive the February 8th Board of Variance meeting minutes for information purposes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, carried. The Finance Committee, Ron, you spoke earlier to the budget. Anything further you wanted to add?
No, nothing.
Perfect.
Item number 11, resolutions. I don't see any resolutions on the table. Item number 12, bylaws. 12A, garbage and recycling collection bylaw number 455, amended bylaw. Okay. We have a motion.
Sorry, Mayor, I can just talk to that. So I was expecting to see a resolution on the table to do the first, second, third reading for adoption in the next meeting. We've had this on at least 3 meeting agendas, so I'm assuming everyone has read it and is familiar with it. And if we've received no further comments, we'll assume it's all acceptable to all. I have had a couple of minor, one typo and one of the minor change recommended to me, 2 from the workshop manager and 1 from another member of the Basement Committee, which will be relatively small. They don't change the format at all. They really are just grammar and typos. So what I'd like to ask is if we consider this first and second reading, that we come back to the next meeting and do a third reading and an adoption. I think procedurally that's all acceptable. I'm sure we've done it that way before. And in that third reading and adoption, I'll make these minor typos. But I'd like to get this approved by the next meeting. The bears are going to be out before garbage bylaws are done if we don't.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the first 2 readings?
Yep.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
When this was raised at the last meeting, my concern at that time was the fact that we did not have a budget and that it does have budget implications, that we're looking at bylaw enforcement, and that I was not prepared to support it until we have seen a budget, seen the implications, look at the overall enforcement perspective that we're taking within the community. I think there's some strong feeling that education trumps enforcement, and that we need to look at really seeking as many ways as we possibly can to bring the village on board with supporting all the items that are put forward in the bylaw, but in an education way and seeking their support. The village certainly got on board this year with rescheduling of garbage times and all those sorts of things, and I think that the bylaw is over the top in terms of some of the enforcement angle issues, and in terms of, if we're putting in these regulations and then committing staff time to enforcing them, I have just really serious concerns about that at this point. So I have reservations about this, particularly until I see what the budget implications are.
Do you want me to deal with those, or do you want to go around the table and I'll?
Oh, we can go around the table. Okay, I'd like to see more education on it, that's my side, is like less policing, more education, but that's my viewpoint. And go ahead, Councillor Abbott. Or Councillor Ryder.
Yeah, Neville, you've got more background on this, so I'll let you speak first.
Okay, so as to the education issues, that is the cornerstone or the first thing the Bear Smart Committee does. It's all about education. They've got a lot of education and suggest we can do more. Yeah, I kind of find that a little, a little unfair on the work they've done. School education, village updates, brochures, putting people's mailboxes. I think we've done a huge amount of education. We will keep doing that. We have a new program to do more education. It's going to be rolling out really soon. So to hold up the bylaw based on you don't think we're doing enough education, I find a little, I wouldn't use any strong words, but that's probably not fair. We'll keep doing a lot of education. As to the bylaw.
Sorry. If I could, we're not talking about doing anything extra than what was done last year, and what was done last year is within the budget. On top of that, we enrolled in Recycle BC. So the solid waste budget has a $20,000 credit because of enrolling with Recycle BC. Sorry, it's a $25,000 credit. 5,000 of that was supposed to go to communication with the village, and that's what the Bear Smart Committee would have access to put out educational material. The bylaw enforcement from last year, essentially what we're looking for, or where we were stymied, is with repeat offenders. So repeated missteps and repeated visits by bears to certain homes. So that's essentially what we're looking for, and that would make the job of bylaw enforcement officers much easier, much more efficient.
Okay, thanks for that, Nye. Councillor Ryder.
Can I just add to, thanks, Nye. And I did have most of those points, but you did it better than I did. But just to circle back on the budget as to what Nye said, there is no increase asked for in the budget other than over what we did last year. And the bylaw enforcement officers asked us to give them some better tool because they got stymied and they couldn't do anything because the bylaw didn't support. The bylaw said you can put your garbage out at 5 in the morning. So the bylaw didn't support the actions we are trying to behaviors we were trying to drive. And I appreciate the point that Nigel just brought up about the additional budget for communication out of our waste collection grant.
Okay, Councillor Ryder.
Yeah, I would say that the education has been ongoing and there'll be more of that. And that this is largely a tool to allow and as a request by law enforcement to make their lives easier. And that's what we've tried to do here. So I don't think there's anything punitive. The education will be ongoing and the bears will be out soon. And let's face it, the bear story, the good story that we had was one of the few good ones coming out of Lions Bay. And I'd hate to see any of that stymied or more dead bears. So we really need to get on this and do these readings and get this done. I don't see any reason to hold it up.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
I think if we look at historically what's happened in the community over the last few years, and one of our speakers earlier on talked about COVID, and what happened during COVID is we ended up creating a huge bylaw enforcement arm. Parking was a big issue. We certainly needed to address that. But one of the things that was a recurring theme when I was talking to people going door to door was the sort of policing, catching of people doing things wrong, the punitive side of things. Now, I don't know how many people in Lions Bay have received parking tickets as a result of friends coming and forgetting to put out a parking pass and this type of thing. But this has been a sort of an ongoing issue. So what I'm looking at, and I'm sorry if the bears are getting caught up in this, but looking at the overall bylaw enforcement, I value and have been completely impressed with the education that has occurred. But I'm just feeling that the bylaws, that this bylaw is very, very rigorous. And I really want to look very carefully at our entire sort of policing approach that we've taken, and the cost that's I think some people, the belief is that we're making great amounts of money by parking and bylaw enforcement, but when I see I need to much better understand that before I can feel comfortable supporting this bylaw. I'm not opposed to the bylaw, but I'm not comfortable supporting it without understanding budget implications and bylaw implications and enforcement implications.
Can I have one final word? Okay, first of all, Michael, please don't get the bears caught up in concerns about parking. There are two completely different issues. Marcus mentioned the good story from last year. Let's not forget the bad story. We destroyed 2 bears. We destroyed 2 bears for the way people misused or did not manage their attractants in the gardens. It was their garbage that did it. It killed 2 bears. I'm not prepared to go there again. 99% of the village people enthusiastically tried to work, did everything they could to follow, the curbside pickup collection times and everything. Very small percentage of the people didn't, a very, very small percentage. And the bylaw officer said to us over and over, there's nothing I can do. If someone just says he doesn't care, there's nothing I can do. This is not targeted at the 99% of the village. This is targeted giving the bylaw officers some means to correct the behavior of the very, very small percentage. But it only takes one small percentage to kill more bears. I'm not happy to allow that to be the circumstance we go into. We don't have time. I think I brought this in December for the first time to this council. This is the first time I'm getting any feedback. It's been on umpteen agendas, right? And now the time is nigh. The bears will be coming out of their hibernation soon, and they're going to be out here, and we need to move forward. And the last point I'm going to make is the amount of hours, and maybe I have better numbers, the amount of hours and time spent on enforcement of garbage management is a fraction of what's spent on the parking. The bylaw enforcement officers are there for parking, and they just happen to be able to accommodate this action as well. It's a really, really small amount. I mean, I would get single-digit percentages. So the issues with budgets and parking should have nothing to do with trying to get an attractants component to our garbage and waste collection bylaw. I'll be really disappointed if we don't approve this in the next 2 meetings.
Okay, I'll have the final comment, and then we'll call a question. I've had lots of complaints about I think perhaps the overzealous ticketing, and I don't want the bears to get caught up in this, because I think we all love the bears. But and I've also had discussions or comments about going so far as to restrictions on Halloween, and I think that's been part of your committee as well, Neville. But I just think that we need to do more education. We need to do a little bit more conveying this message, because I think the complaints that we've had around the ticketing, especially of dogs and parking, and that people are quite upset, and a lot of people don't want to see this policing state. So if we can somehow convey the message, or maybe look at this a little closer before, I think is my feeling. But with that, why don't we call the question?
Sorry, can I just
speak? No. Go ahead now.
Okay, you spoke. This is the 3rd time. Let's wrap it up and call a question.
I've spoken once.
I know Marcus has only spoken once. Maybe.
Well, then let's let Marcus speak. Then we'll go to Marcus.
Okay. I agree, Michael, that none of us, and Ken, that we want to live in a police state. And I don't like overzealous ticketing any more than anybody else. But parking, dogs, that's another matter. This is simply to address a deficit as brought to us by the bylaw officers in being able to handle this one very tiny problem. The other matter, I mean, we should, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but there's no budgetary concern here. This is an ask from bylaw so that they can do their job in those very, very few cases. The majority of people are doing great things, and all the education is ongoing, and there's been a ton of it. And I mean, I just remind everybody that this is the good news story for Lions Bay, and I really think that we should support it. There's nothing here that is going to affect the budget. I would implore you to help us move forward with this. The bears are going to be coming out, and we just have to get this done. It's a simple, small thing.
Okay, we'll call a question.
Before we call the question, can I have my final word here, because I'm reading the room and I'm really disappointed if we don't get this to move forward. Can we still have a first and second reading tonight? We have 2 weeks between the next meeting. I don't know who all these hundreds or lots of people are that are complaining about the bears, not talking about parking, about bears enforcement. I don't know who they are, but they haven't voiced their opinion to me. We have 2 weeks. We can get some more input from residents. We can find out if there are people, a significant amount of people, and we can address it at the next and final reading. But let's not kill this thing tonight because we've gone down some tangent about overzealous parking policing. That is just not going to be acceptable for me. So can we still do the 2 readings tonight? You have one more chance to defeat it next week.
The motion is to approve the 2 readings.
If I could just speak to that. I've made my point very clear in terms of budget and concerns about budget and so on, and I am open to having more information.
Do you understand that the budget is not affected by the bears?
No, I'm not. No, I don't. It's not quite that simple. Yeah. Anyway, in terms of we will be being presented with some budget information, which will be helpful. If we don't have these 2 readings tonight, it doesn't kill this issue. It could come to the next meeting. However, I would be open to supporting the first 2 readings this evening, subject to having further information and consistent with my concerns.
Okay, sorry, I put my hand up when I thought you said we could do it all in the next meeting. In order to do it in the next meeting, we have to have at least the first 2 readings tonight.
I understand.
Because we can read and adopt them.
No, we could do.
So you'd be supportive of the first 2.
We could do the first 2 readings in the next meeting.
Michael, if we do the next 2 meetings,
we could do the first 2 readings in the next meeting. And then we could do the 3rd and 4th in the following meetings. I hear your concerns.
Bears running around your house.
I hear your concerns. Therefore, I would be prepared to support first and second meetings in this meeting in order to receive more information before the next meeting.
Okay.
So I'll make one final appeal.
It's difficult.
One final appeal, and we call the question. One final appeal. Council has had this since December. I am really disappointed because these bears will be roaming around here before we ever get around to dealing with this bylaw. Call the question.
Excuse me. Just final.
Okay, one more comment.
Final comment, and then.
But you had one more.
Well, you're saying final comment, and point is I did raise this exact concern 2 weeks ago in the previous meeting, and so it's not. I've been completely consistent moving along. So
okay, call the question. Those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
Should we read it out?
We should. We're supposed to. We should at least have a resolution that says,
yeah,
council reads the bylaw the first and second time.
So how about something like this? That council resolves that the amendments to the bylaw be approved and that they be read first and second time this
I
evening.
shouldn't say approved, so the amendments to the bylaw should be read for the first and second.
All right, should be read for the first and second time this evening.
And then it comes back to the next meeting for third reading and potentially adoption.
I'm good with that.
Okay,
Okay,
all in favor?
Question? Question?
yeah. Question, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Carried. Okay. Next item was utilities. And
Just sorry, one question. Do we need to read it a second time?
For the first time, and
Yes.
then, sorry,
Yes.
and say, as said before, for the second time. All in favor?
all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Motion carries.
So we've done it, we read it twice. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. We got utilities on here. I'm not sure what that was that referring to?
We already talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it, okay. All right, 13 policies and procedures, there's nothing there. 14 correspondence, list of correspondence to Thursday, February 11th, 2023. Motion that the correspondence to February 16th, the regular meeting of council for the Village of Reliance Bay be received and circulated, and that all such correspondence be acknowledged in writing, and that the correspondence seeking an action within the proper jurisdiction of the municipality be referred to the Chief Administration Officer. We have a motion.
So moved. I'd like to speak. Well, yeah, so moved.
Second. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay, discussion.
Okay, if I could just go through and just like to highlight, because this is my quarter, I've rather than reading all the letters which have been on the website, just like to mention in particular a letter from Trudy Luthi regarding Mary Comer Miles. Mary is a 50-year resident of our community, passed away very recently, and Mary Miles, of course, was the creator of the Mary Miles Native Plant Garden, and which we all pass multiple times each week. And Mary was the resident artist at the Van Dusen Gardens, and for many, many years is a phenomenal artist. And some of her artwork actually is displayed in the Mary Miles Native Plant Garden. Victor's husband, Mary's husband, Victor, was in fact the designer of our Lions Bay community flag. So they're just a wonderful couple, raised their children in Lions Bay. And Mary, as I said, just passed away in the last couple of weeks. So that's a real loss for our community. In addition, there were a number of other letters that sort of fall into, I think, three categories. One is there's three letters regarding the hiring process, and I can draw your attention to those. One letter regarding the mayor's comments in the village update and comments, opinions about that. And two letters regarding Zoom entry to a meeting on the 15th of February, and we're really trying to improve our process in terms of getting people into meetings and so on. And I'd just like to acknowledge that Marina was not running that meeting, and that we had some problems then. So she's been doing a fabulous job for us. So anyway, we're really trying to make sure that with all the interest in the community that you're able to access the Zoom meetings very effectively. There were three letters that were brought into this meeting on table. One was regarding parking, and a person who was quite upset about not only receiving a parking ticket, did not believe that they had received the parking ticket, which I know a lot of people have some difficulty with, but it had been referred to collection, and she was quite upset about her $195 parking ticket now being $240, and a collection agency having to follow up on that. Second letter is from the Invasive Species Council, encouraging a representative from our community, which has been referred to staff to look at. And the third was regarding.
Can I comment on that one?
Yes.
I don't know who's looking at it from staff, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Um,
Want me to
But I-
speak while you do that, while you breathe? The third is regarding,
Sorry, I'm almost there, Michael.
you okay?
I just wanted to say that if you guys agree, I could reach out to really the native plant garden people, the bird friendly people kind of know them all fairly well, and see if I can get someone to volunteer for that, if you like. I think I could pretty easily.
I think that'd be a terrific idea. Okay, thank you, Neville. That's great. Okay. And the third letter was from the events committee, and as we move forward with the budget, just want to assure the events committee that council is profoundly supportive of the events committee, and particularly in times when the village really needs some good news, the events committee is a wonderful contributor to that. So that's the synopsis anyway of the letters that as they came in.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Are we still replying to these letters?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Now, I have not
Councillor Brown.
replied. I know you've been cleaning up your file. And so I wanted to bring them to council first, and I'll reply to them.
Okay.
I'll reply to all of these.
And you'll CC us all in on the replies?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Broughton. We'll move to item number 15, new business. We have the BC Building Stronger Communities, a $1 billion growing communities fund, and that is posted on here for discussion. From what I have heard, the feedback that I've received is that all communities are slated to receive a portion of these funds. Our portion is reported, they're estimated to be somewhere in around the 500,000 plus or minus. Anybody else have any information?
Yeah, I was looking for that as well, and somewhere I got unreliable quote. Maybe it was actually 650 was the minimum, but whatever it is. I think there's a lot of projects we could try boost with this. I have some thoughts where I think it could be used. And then we also have the other climate resilience fund, which I looked into a little bit, and I suggested we take to the Climate Action Committee. And that might not be the correct term. But I looked into that one a little bit this morning. It's actually only a 40% grant for us. It's more for others, but it's 40% grant for us, and it's a $1 million minimum. So I know at one point we thought that maybe the beach erosion thing, but it's not going to fit into that category because you couldn't spend $1 million down there, and I certainly don't think we could afford to spend 600. But I think there's other projects, a village-wide drainage project, for example, might work, because you can have sub-projects that you bundle as long as they have one goal and one outcome. So yeah, it's my thoughts on those ones.
Yeah.
I will still reach out to the Climate Action Committee when we have our first meeting. Marcus is trying to organize that and get some thoughts from them. We have to jump on this fairly fast though, because it's July, but July comes around really fast. So my ask to the CEO, CFO again, Ron, is who from staff is going to be able to put this grant application together? We certainly will be applying. The Climate Action Committee and others can give some guidance on what you think is the best. We have the infrastructure master plan. We have all those tools, but we need someone to write this grant and apply. And 3.5 months will go by pretty fast. I can't remember the date in July, whether it's the 1st or the end of July. But even if it's 4 months, it's still going to go by really fast.
Okay. Any comments? Further comments?
No, I think.
Councillor Ryder?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Okay.
If I could just say that we have incredible expertise in this community to call on to to make recommendations, to pursue ideas and so on. So I'm very excited that some of these grant opportunities are in place. And I'm sure that there's going to be, we can really reach out to experts in different areas to assist us with this. So.
All right, well, thank you for that comment and everyone's comments. We'll move on to the third item. There was the posting of the CAO, CFO. That was asked to be added, as well as the fire chief discussion. So the posting of the CAO, I understand you're posting for the building inspector. Any thoughts of posting for the CAO? And
whenever you want to do it, I'll gladly post it. The sooner the better.
Okay.
Your list
All
is
right.
filling up.
Do we need a resolution or can we
Filling up.
can we get it done?
Why don't we do a resolution for that then?
I'll bring forward the resolution.
Okay,
with my idea.
Second.
I was going to word a resolution if you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
That council directs the COO, CFO to post for the CFO position as soon as is possible. Yes.
You missed CAO.
I said CFO, I did miss CAO. I was going to wonder, are they different or do we want to do both? Roll both together. Or is that something we want to consider?
We can go with the CAO because the CAO is going to likely do the hiring of the CFO.
Yeah, well, we could get all the resumes.
We could post both of them and see what the interest level is, and hopefully.
Okay, let's post both.
I think part of the mandate of our previous CAO, acting CAO, was to look at the organization and whether this structure that we wanted to continue with. So I'm wondering whether, there's a lot of transition going on at this point in time, but a lot of things going on, but do we want to necessarily recreate exactly the structure that we have, or do we want to step back and make sure that we understand we have someone who's an organizational expert looking at our organization. I wonder if we could defer the posting until we've had a chance to maybe receive some input from him, potentially. Perhaps if Mr. Tobin would have some input, I think that we could maybe benefit from that. I just wonder about.
Well, I know those discussions have gone on. I'm fully open to those discussions. I think it'd be good to for us to look at that, but
we need to get
staff and if this generates some inbound interest, I don't think that. So, what is the rest of the council think?
Yeah, I agree with you. We can of course continue to examine organizational questions, but I think we need to get some resumes on the table for both positions. So I would say let's get the postings out there and let's get some names in that we can then consider.
Okay, why don't we break it into two resolutions? Posting for the CAO. Do we have a motion for that?
I was just going to speak to why I only mentioned the CFO. For that reason, I personally think we need a CFO. We have to have a financial officer for the community charter side of things anyway, and we need a CFO. So I would think we should go forward with posting for the CFO. If there's any organizational duties and roles that want to be moved around, and think that discussion, I think that probably happens more on the CAO side. So maybe it's an interim CAO that we post for, or I don't know, with an option to move to full-time potentially. Maybe we can word that into the application. Or it can be unspecific as to the duration, I guess. But I do think a full-time permanent CFO is something we need to get on with.
I'm going to ask one question because I'll ask it as a CFO. If we were to put forward, break this into two motions, the CAO being one motion and the CFO, what is your experience? How have you found the requirements in that? Do you see us with a a full-time CAO and a CFO? How's it?
Maybe a little different than what Neville is saying. You definitely need a full-time CAO. Do you need a full-time CFO? Or is it the same person?
Okay, so in the past, we have had a treasurer CAO who was a long time back. I think this is the difference. The CFO we've currently just lost also did all the grants. She did all the grant writing, all the grant reporting, all of those things I've been asking you to know who's doing. And you can probably see that building up to a full-time role anyway.
I'm not sure of that.
Well, it's okay. So it's building up to a significant amount of work. So I think if you have that entity, we can find a person that has those two skill sets, is what I think we badly need. Someone that could be the CFO as well as do the grant applications and all the grant reporting.
Wouldn't that also be the CAO?
In my mind, I see the CAO, and this is what I thought we should have done in the past and we moved away from. In my mind, I see the CEO being the guy that's doing all this project management stuff that we don't know what to do with, is running all the projects as well as the normal corporate functions. That's the kind of division I see. Does that have to have the title CAO? I don't know. But I do agree we should get some resumes coming in and not delay this and have a paralysis by analysis here and not get anything done.
Okay, let's break it into motions. I like the idea of the CAO, and then I think based on what I've heard Ron talk about, I'm not so sure that we need a full-time CFO, but that's something I think that we could maybe discuss more further.
Is it possible to define that as simply, we must have a financial officer?
Yes.
So perhaps if we talk about a CAO and a financial officer, and the financial officer, we may be able to find someone who either is interested in a part-time position or perhaps, and maybe find someone who's really strong in grant writing and so on, who maybe that would be a different position. Maybe there are residents who would be looking at 60% positions or whatever. I just would like to use the opportunity. We've got some super challenges going on here, but is there any way that we can take these challenges and roll them into an opportunity? And based on people with outside expertise coming in, having a look at us and saying, we're hearing a lot of this is the way we've always done it. Well, maybe we don't need to always do it this way. Maybe there are other ways to do it, and maybe we should be entertaining those very seriously. So I would say, advertise the CAO and perhaps the financial officer with some flexibility. I don't know, or maybe just get the request out there and see what.
I think just get the request.
I think the request out there. Yeah. I'm fine with the motion.
I'm just very hesitant to foreclose on position titles, because because if they then lock in to prior positions, that's problematic to me.
I think reality is going to be, we all unanimously approved the last CAO, and and let's be realistic, we drove him out of here before we would have liked to have seen him leave. So, let's post this and just see what inbounds we have. At least that's my feeling. Okay, we've got a motion. All those in favor?
I'm sorry, but
the motion is to post the CAO. Okay, roll. Just post it. It's not to hire the CAO. It's to post it, see what inbounds we have, and then as a council, we're going to have to get together if that time comes. My speculation is that it won't happen until after the by-election.
Do we want to call the position maybe COO / village manager? That's the term we used to use. And then we can give a wide range of duties and descriptions and then see what you get. Then you can always define a little bit later and move some roles to a CFO or whatever. And then allow the other one to be
creating some latitude.
Yeah, allow the other one to be a CFO / treasurer, which is what we used to have as well. So then you get two sets of resumes and you can actually move a little bit across if you want, depending on what you get.
Okay.
So the first
what I'm
motion-
almost hearing is that we need to outline the roles and responsibilities. And have that
Yeah.
a little clearer.
Well, I think we have those. They should be on file in the office, I'm sure.
Might want to review those a bit. So CAO, village manager.
Yep.
Okay, I would move that amendment to the motion.
Okay.
And we're doing the CFO as well, position?
Well, we do one at a time.
Letters.
All right, CEO, village manager.
Okay, call the question. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
Okay, second motion.
Second motion is to post CFO. Any discussion? Sorry.
We could put slash treasurer if that helps to get a wider range of roles.
Somebody who's got expertise in grant writing.
We need to get the grant writing into one of those two roles.
Yep.
It's traditionally been on the treasurer CFO side, but someone needs to have that.
I'll put that
Maybe you
forward.
could describe that in both roles and see what you get.
Does that sound like
I think so.
a plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Putting that forward, Marcus?
You're
Yes.
moving that?
I'll second.
Call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried. Okay. Next item was the fire chief. And
We discussed that in closed. What are we going to
I
discuss?
think we had,
We did have it in closed.
we had it in close. Someone brought it up, but maybe I.
I might have had it on, I might have had it on my list. I did, but then we did it in closed.
Okay,
Good reason.
okay, all right, strike that.
If it was me that brought it up, yes.
Okay, that's all of the, on to item number 16, and that's public discussion. So we'll open it back up to the gallery.
I have a procedural question, and I don't know if I'll get an answer tonight, but the closed minutes that were presented on table by Councillor Broughton earlier, will those now become part of the public record? And should we expect to see them included in the minutes of this meeting at the next meeting? It's new waters, I've never seen that happen before, so I have absolutely no idea where we go from there, but I would like an answer. I understand it's probably not possible tonight.
A very good question. I don't think we should answer it tonight.
I don't have that answer, and maybe we can get the CFO to check with council.
Whether it's in order.
Those were distributed and yeah, they weren't put out to anyone else, so. Mr. Miller, if you can check on that. Okay, any other questions?
We have any?
Okay, Penny, if you'll take your mute off.
Yes, so I'd like to direct this to Michael. Michael, your platform is all about conservation and environmentalism. I'm frankly shocked that you would not support something that would avoid more dead bears. I'm not sure if you're aware that a group from Europe came to visit Lions Bay last year to see how we do bear smart. And yet you are unwilling to support a bylaw that we tried to put in place last year, or measures that we tried to put in place last year that actually got recognized by international bodies as a model. When you go home to Brenda tonight.
Sorry,
and
can you just ask the question?
Yeah, my question is to Michael, when you go home to Brenda tonight, what do you think she's going to say when she was instrumental in making us a bear smart community?
Okay, thank you for that, Penny. Any comments from Councillor Broughton, or we'll move on?
Well,
No, I'd
I
like
think
an
that-
answer.
I think you're quite, I think that I have expressed my concern. I am profoundly supportive of Bear Smart.
No, you're not, Michael. You're worried about budget. We've already said that there are no budget issues. What are you going to say to Brenda?
What are you going to say to Neville?
As someone who's worked on the Bear Smart Committee for the last year, as someone who's actually worked on all of this, Michael, I'm surprised.
Okay, thank you for that, Penny. David Shore, you'll take off your mute.
Hi, everyone. I'd just like to talk to the concept of volunteers and committees since it seemed to get a lot of airtime tonight. There's a lot of projects that we need to get done in the village. We are short staff and we're short of council members. And the projects don't get done properly without research. So we have a choice. We can either not do the research and have poor projects go forward. We can have projects be pushed out because we can't do the research for them. We could hire outside consultants for tens of thousands of dollars to provide their research, which annoyingly often results in a doubling or tripling of the original estimates of the projects themselves. Or we can
Sorry, David, you've cut out, so I'm not sure if you're still there or not.
It's frozen.
It's frozen.
Now you're still
along
there.
with their family just to help out the village. There is nothing nefarious going on.
David, you cut out for about a minute.
David, you cut out the last minute.
Yeah, okay. For a full minute, eh?
Well,
almost.
Yeah.
Could you
Okay,
go,
sorry about that.
sorry, could you repeat?
So where did we get to?
Volunteers?
Yeah, volunteers.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm talking about is the fact that there's a lot of projects in the village right now. And we can either get the research that's required in order to go ahead with these projects from consultants that charge tens of thousands of dollars and often come to a conclusion that we need to spend 2 or 3 times what the original estimate was, or we can go forward with the projects without the research. But if you didn't hear me say so before, it's clear that we are short staff and we're short of counsel. And we need these projects. In some cases, we want them to go through sooner than later. And if you want to do the research, then why not avail yourself of the volunteers that have put their names forward? We have fantastic subject matter experts in this village. And if one example, for example, is the Beach Park Committee, which is just loaded with expertise. Originally, there was 20 people that volunteered for that. And I think there's somewhere around a half a dozen now on a more formal committee. And my understanding is that they're doing a great job of bringing things forward. So a fantastic example. A far less organized or official committee, it's not really a committee, it's just a volunteer group, has been working for decades building and maintaining our trails in the woods. We have world-class trails that have been supported by the village, but all of the physical labor, all the hard work and all the planning has come from village residents. 2 in particular, and there may be more, but 2 that I know of have received the Citizen of the Year Award. That's the Dudleys. That kind of volunteerism used to be very broad in the village when Brigitte and I moved here about 18 years ago. And in the last few years, it's been nowhere near the same. Most of the councillors that are in this room right now got elected on platforms that included reinvigorating volunteerism and access to the abundance of expertise of residents, to quote just one of them. The Finance Committee, which I sit on, is doing just that. We're helping doing research and we're providing that research to council. None of these committees can do anything. It's not like you have to worry about some nefarious thing going on that, that could come and blow you up in the face. All of the work is being done to empower the council. And if you want to see what goes on, just take a look at the recordings. I'm obviously very bullish on getting the subject matter experts we have in the village to provide their volunteer work. I think that for some committees, for example, the Infrastructure Committee, which hasn't met properly for at least a year, maybe 2, that's something that we really, really need right now. We are long on subject matter experts, and I know a couple that come from different walks of life that would like to volunteer. it would probably make sense to have somewhere around 3 infrastructure committees. Water experts are different than building experts, for example. I would hope that at some point on the finance committee, we get to a point where we're out of work. We've dealt with all the projects. We're still available. If you need us again, we can come together. I would support having ad hoc committees that are just available to help with projects. It could be a 2-week project. It could be a 2-month project. But this is volunteers. This is subject matter experts, and they're offering their time for free. So don't push us away. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, David. Any other questions?
Hey, oh, I'm sorry.
He was just.
He dropped it.
I just have one.
Okay, Tanya.
Just a quick comment. I'm Tanya Cosgrave. Nice to see you all. Thanks for sitting at this table all night for us. Just a comment actually to David's comment about how we have so much expertise in the village with regards to the grant writing process. Would it be a possibility that we could potentially freelance this position out to somebody in the village that may have the expertise around writing grants and somebody that may be willing to step up in a freelance position to come and do this? Because I'm imagining, I don't know what you make, but I imagine the CFO position is probably not the cheapest position for us to pay for, and possibly grant writing could come under a different heading. Anyway, just a thought. Nobody needs to comment. I just wanted to pass that up there.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Great idea. Okay, any other questions from our Zoom guests in the gallery? No.
Okay, if I could just reiterate my support for the Bear Smart Committee and my support over many years for the Bear Smart Committee. I support the approach that you're taking. But I'm quite offended by the personal attack on the basis that I questioned the approach that is being taken, and that I put forward the idea of education over enforcement, and that I'm looking at the big picture in terms of the community. I absolutely historically have been supportive of the Bear Smart Committee. So, but if I feel like I dared to question the one approach that was being presented, and that I was personally attacked for doing so. So I don't think that's appropriate. And I think that that's inconsistent with what we're trying to do. So thank you.
All right. Okay. I'm not so sure with the personal attack. I think it was, but anyway, we'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right, there's no other questions. With that, I'll have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Any?
Penny, you take your mute off. We'll allow you one final question before we move on and adjourn the meeting.
Michael, there was no personal attack, number one. And secondly,
Penny, it felt like a personal attack. Is
Michael, point of order, I have the floor.
Pardon me.
Yes. There was no personal attack involved in this. The point is, we had 2 dead bears last year. And this is the point of this entire bylaw amendment. Those of us who actually sat and tracked what was going on last year and tried to stop what actually eventually happened, you need to be there and you need to catch up with what actually happened. And it's very clear to me that you are not aware. There was umpteen amounts of education put out there last year. The Bear Smart Committee had standalone village updates time after time. There were other members of the committee that made that happen. Not me. There was umpteen education that went out there, and the bylaw officers, eventually there was even an audit performed. We brought in a consultant to actually go door to door to educate people with regards Bear Smart practices. And the ultimate finding was by the consultant as well, and you can ask, the consultant's name was Meg Toom. If you're unaware of this, I find that hard to believe. There was a lot of education that has gone on in the last 2 years since the committee was resurrected. So if you don't know about it, you really need to inform yourself and perhaps go back and look at what went out there.
All right.
There was no personal attack. There was actually just a plea, no more dead bears.
Okay, Penny, thank you for that. And one last question.
Hi, sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear me. Assam Monfred again. The condescending tone that the members of the public are taking to ask questions of council members in respect of their views, their understanding of information is inappropriate and in my view should not be permitted. Okay. What it appears to be, it's a budgetary question that's been raised that seems wholly appropriate in terms of having prudent fiscal management of taxpayer dollars, and irrespective of how many bears have had to be destroyed because they were not, there was not proper education or new members joined the village, or there's flagrant abuse of the rules that already exist. Irrespective of that, we cannot bypass fiscal prudence. That is completely unacceptable. And I will say, bringing somebody else's spouse in whatever context is unacceptable. It's unprofessional, and frankly, it underscores the fact that this is not the Parliament of Canada. This is a small community government, and everybody, including us attendees who have the privilege of being allowed to speak, should take umbrage in that and take that seriously. And the fact that some of us know village members, we know their spouses, etc., should not be used as a mechanism to push policies which may be fiscally imprudent, and without a proper study of a committee that apparently doesn't even have a mandate from council. It makes no sense to pass a bylaw that could have fiscal impacts of again, taxpayer dollars. So I'll leave my comments there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that, Assam.
Let me just respond. I believe you're a lawyer, so you will be familiar with the terms asked and answered, and that could well be said of the budgetary question on this. It's been discussed before. There is no budgetary impact. We've heard it tonight. There is no question as to fiscal prudence or imprudence here. So it's a moot point in this regard.
Mayor Barry, may I have one more opportunity to respond to that?
Yes.
Okay, just for clarity, if council is able to pass first reading and second reading in one meeting, okay, then there's no reason that I'm aware of that you guys can't pass first, second, third reading. If there's some procedural process that you guys are all agreed to. And at the end of the day, frankly, unless I bring judicial review on the process that you're undertaking, you guys can pass first, second, third, fourth reading and create a fifth reading. And if that's acceptable to you, you can do this at your next meeting and subsequent meeting and still meet the timelines that you're invoking with respect to making sure that the enforcement measures are in place for bylaw to be able to use them. So I do not accept that if these processes exist and you're able to all agree, this is something that can be resolved at a subsequent meeting, and you guys can, council members and the mayor can agree that these readings have happened. The record is clear. This has been discussed, etc. And frankly, I don't think any villager wants to spend $150,000 to bring judicial review on something that really seems to affect less than 1% of the residents of Lions Bay. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Excellent. Okay, is there any other questions from the gallery?
Maybe just one last thing on I'm not sure what the $150,000 is in reference to. No idea.
Issue review of the process that we undertake.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't know how that came up.
We don't need it.
Okay.
We cannot have 3 readings and an adoption in one night. That's the rule. The reason we were going to have 3 readings tonight and an adoption the next meeting, the reason I changed that, as I explained, is because there was a few suggestions for minor changes So then we could have a third reading with changes and then the adoption. Simply procedural. That's the way why it was done that way.
Okay, thanks for those comments. I'll just add one comment, and I think SN's comments about treating each other with respect, I think is an important one. You know, we need to conduct ourselves with respect, and we need to, quite frankly, I think all of us need to just review the way that we interact with each other. I think we've heard from enough residents that it's not acceptable the way we carry on. So, you know, I think that fundamentally people should be able to ask questions. That's our democracy. You can challenge things and you shouldn't necessarily be singled out personally for that speaking up. So,
And could I just add that having and maintaining order is the first step in a respectful conduct. And that's what we're desperately in need of. Order is where it starts.
okay,
Starting on Thursday.
and that'll happen on Thursday morning at 11 a.m. when we talk to the ministry, because
Yep.
that's what it's excellent is a by-election.
I think we're all looking
Well,
forward to that.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, motion to adjourn the meeting. Move into closed.
Move to closed. So moved.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, carried. Okay, thank you to everyone in the gallery for
Coming.
your participation.
Have a nice evening. Hope you're not here too long.